welcome back to my channel. I'm Tally, I'm a personal trainer, and today I have a special guest. I have Pixie. Pixie, introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are.
Hey, I'm Pixie, so I'm a nutritionist and a food blogger under the name Plantbasedpixie.
So I wanted to get Pixie on today because we are busting our 5 nutrition myths.
It's gonna be good.
We're angry, we are angry.
We
are stressed. We are fed up of certain questions and certain myths being out there and people not knowing the truth about nutrition.
Exactly, and there's so many we could have chosen from, but we've gone with 5.
Yes.
Because, you know, we could literally be here for hours otherwise.
We could be here for hours, but we're going to keep it to 5, we're going to keep it short, we're going to keep it snappy, and by the end of it we hope you have learned something.
Knowledge bombs.
Knowledge bombs by Pixie the nutritionist. Number 1, protein powders make you bulky. Talk to me, Pixie.
Well, short answer is they don't. Really, you need a certain amount of protein in your diet to be able to, for your body just to be able to function, and if you're training on a regular basis you need more. So the minimum is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram per day. You have to hit that really to be able to build muscle. If you're training hard, you should probably go up to maybe 1 to 1.5. Most people don't really need to go above that, and if you have more protein than that, you just pee it out. It's not going to suddenly give you like the world's biggest biceps.
Yeah.
You're going to pee that straight out. So you really don't need to worry about your protein because you're probably getting enough anyway. And if you're having a bit too much, it's just going to be peed out. So don't stress.
The only time I ever recommend protein powder is as a convenience tool. So what's the difference between chicken and whey protein or vegan protein? There is none, because it's a source of protein. So protein powder specifically doesn't make you bulky.
In the same way that having too much chicken won't make you bulky.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, the chicken will have other things apart from
Well,
the protein. That's
the
the only difference really. But again, it's a source of protein, and if you're having too much, you just get rid of it.
Exactly. It will literally come out the other end.
Straight up.
Okay, myth number 2. You need to cut carbohydrates to lose fat.
Again, short answer, no, really. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be like a fail-safe way, and also it's not necessarily going to be the healthiest way. It really depends on you and your body and how you function, and it's individual to everyone. So the only way, if you're trying to lose weight, the only way that's going to work is by reducing your calorie intake, and it's just a case of thermodynamics for the most part, calories in versus calories out.
Yeah.
And one way that people choose to reduce their calories in is by reducing their carbs. That is one way you can do it. You can also reduce your fat intake bit, which in some cases might be more ideal because fat has more calories per gram, and you might also just eat less overall. That's another way to do it. But if you're reducing your carb intake too much, you are running the risk of potentially becoming deficient in things like fibre. Now, carbohydrates and grains especially are an amazing source of fibre. And in the UK and around the world, we don't get enough fibre. We should be eating 30 grams of fibre a day minimum.
I don't think people do. Like, it shocks me when I talk to clients.
Really don't. And we have a mass constipation issue in this country, which is...
She went there.
which actually people don't always realise because we drink so much coffee, and coffee actually makes you poo. So people don't realise that they're constipated, and I think for a lot of people, if they were to stop drinking coffee, they would probably become really constipated because they're not getting enough fibre. And the best source of fibre are grains, beans, pulses and vegetables. But you need grains to get your fibre and your B vitamins.
Knowledge bombs, people. We told you they were coming. She dropped them.
Hard and fast.
Number 3, this is a controversial one. Natural sugars are better than the processed stuff.
Let's go into some biochemistry here.
Okay.
Pretty simple biochemistry. Sugar is sucrose. And any kind of sugar is sucrose, whether that comes from table sugar, caster sugar, maple syrup, golden syrup, coconut syrup, it's all sucrose. It's all variations of glucose and fructose and sucrose, all of which is sugar. Whether you're getting sugar from table sugar, caster sugar or maple syrup, your body literally doesn't care. Your body sees sugar and it uses it, and it really doesn't matter where it comes from. There's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of extra vitamins that you get from things like coconut sugar, but it's so insignificant. And if you're relying on coconut sugar for your vitamins and minerals, you're not going to get them because you'd have to eat them in such large quantities to get enough, and that would be completely negated by the fact that you're eating so much sugar. So whether your sugar comes from like highly processed or whether it comes from a very natural unprocessed source, it doesn't matter, it is still sugar and it is still counted as a free sugar, and we should be reducing those in our diets.
I honestly have nothing to add. She nails it so well, she's just so concise. I love it.
Basically, don't think that just because you're substituting caster sugar for maple syrup, that it's a free pass to have as much as you want, because it is not.
And I'm guilty of that sometimes. When I make a healthy bake, and I'm like, I can eat double the amount. It's not true. You can't. Don't play yourself. I do this to myself all the time.
Yeah, it's very easy to trick yourself.
I think we've all done it though.
Oh, I've done it too, definitely.
Yeah. You're like, oh, it's fine.
It's natural, it's okay.
It's natural, it's all
no,
natural.
There is no correlation between natural and healthy. It doesn't, there's just not. There's poisonous mushrooms, there's so many things in nature that can kill you. Just because something is natural doesn't mean it's automatically good for you.
Once again, boom, she cut straight to it. Number 4, and this one is particularly brought up today because Pixie is here, and if you know her, online social media handle is Plantbasedpixie, so we had to talk about the plant-based diet. Going plant-based is a really great way of losing weight. I'll let you take this one.
It frustrates me when people see that as a way of losing weight, because essentially it's just a very restrictive diet. And it's very easy to do wrong if you're not doing it under proper nutritional guidance. So if you're just randomly overnight deciding to cut out all animal products, all like meat, fish, dairy, eggs, all that kind of stuff, you run the risk of potentially not necessarily becoming deficient in certain things just because you might not know exactly what you're doing, and it's harder to get certain nutrients from a diet that is purely plant or vegan than a diet that is has much more variety. It works for some people as a weight loss tool simply because there's so many things that they can't eat that they normally would, but it's not sustainable if it makes you unhappy, and it's not sustainable if it makes you so restrictive that you can't have a functioning social life, and if you can't do everything normally and you just don't know what to eat.
I think what it is there's a huge trend right now for everyone who's going vegan, who's going plant-based, and I think ultimately it's down to personal preference and personal choice, isn't it?
Exactly, it's what works for you, but also what makes you happy and healthy. And also it's worth pointing out that plant-based doesn't mean vegan. A plant-based diet is a great diet simply because it is a diet that is low in animal products or eliminates them. It doesn't necessarily mean a diet that is 100% plants. It could be something like 80% plants, and then the rest can be whatever you want. But people going vegan, like 100% plants for weight loss, kind of is a bit of a disrespect to vegans who are doing it for their ethical really passionate ethical, environmental reasons and so on. If you're doing it just for weight loss, that kind of, is a bit really dissing on them.
And if you have gone vegan recently and you feel like you're struggling with what you're eating, what you're getting in your body, and you feel like you're lacking certain nutrients in certain areas, check out Pixie's blog, because she has so many great recipes and information on there, and because it's all about, with veganism, you have to think a little bit harder about what you're going to have.
You do,
and you have to prepare.
You have to think more carefully. There's some things which are harder to get hold of, some vitamins which are harder for your body to absorb, and if you're worried or you're concerned or you're not feeling quite right, then see a registered nutritionist, see a dietitian, see someone who's actually going to be able to analyse your diet and tell you what you can do to help yourself.
Yes.
Don't rely on Instagram to tell you what to eat.
That's true, that's so true. Okay, that brings us on to our final nutrition myth, and we are going to bust straight through it. Okay,
Number 5.
Everybody should avoid gluten to have a healthy diet.
This is so wrong. I have no idea where this has come from, the idea that everyone needs to cut out gluten, but it is so wrong. Most people don't even know what gluten is. Gluten is a protein. It is a protein. That means that if you're going gluten-free, you're eating less protein in your diet potentially, which is not really ideal. Also, gluten makes things like bread really absolutely amazing. I mean, I've never found a gluten-free bread that's really particularly good, to be honest.
Yeah.
You can't beat the gluten in bread, it's what makes it awesome. And a gluten-free diet potentially runs the risk of, again, being lower in fibre, it runs the risk of being lower in protein, it runs the risk of being lower in things like B vitamins and iron and all sorts of other things. And it isn't necessarily healthier because a lot of the gluten-free products that you can buy in supermarkets and so on have a lot of other random stuff thrown in.
So processed, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're probably more processed than a gluten-free cake could probably be more processed than its deemed unhealthy counterpart.
Yeah, exactly. And they have to add so much more. A lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time they have to add more fat and more sugar just to be able to make it taste
of something.
Edible. Yeah, exactly, just to make it taste of something. And as a result, you end up with so many more ingredients, you end up with so many more things in it that you don't actually necessarily need, all of which could be solved by the simple gluten. And a lot of it also comes down to people think that they can ascribe any kind of health problem to eating gluten, when actually There's only a very small percentage of the population that actually should be cutting out gluten. It's only like between 1 and 3% of the population actually needs to get rid of gluten due to gluten sensitivity or celiac disease. And if you're not sure, get diagnosed. If you don't have an official diagnosis, either get a diagnosis to make sure that you are not eliminating things unnecessarily, or it could just be psychological as well, which I know is really something people don't want to hear. But if you eat something and at the same time you're constantly thinking, oh God, this is so bad for me, this is going to make me bloat, this is going to make me feel awful, it likely will, simply because you are stressed, your body's tense, your stomach's going to be tense, which means you won't digest things as well. Your brain's going to be thinking, oh God, this is going to be awful, and you'll end up with a nocebo effect, which is where you think something is going to be having a negative effect, therefore it does.
Yeah.
Exactly. And a lot of it can actually be down to that, and I personally have had that with gluten.
I've had that.
I thought,
100%
yeah, I thought gluten was going to make me feel bad,
Yeah.
and then it did, simply because I thought it would. It's the power of your mind. So you have to think positively around food.
Yes.
And you have to be relaxed and not too stressed when you eat as well. That really makes a big difference.
Okay, so we've busted some nutrition myths, but I want you just to give a few pointers. This is what people necessarily probably shouldn't be doing, but what do you think people should be doing? What for you makes a great, wholesome, well-rounded diet?
For me, there is no perfect diet because everyone is different, everyone's unique. I think people shouldn't be taking advice from Instagram. People should be listening to their bodies and working out what works well for them. And just because something works for someone else doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. There are so many different ways of eating. So many, I mean, too many to possibly count. So you have to find out what works well for you. And I mean, eating lots of fruit and vegetables is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Eating whole grains if you can, I think, is really important. Getting good sources of protein, whether that's plant sources of protein like beans, or whether that's animal sources of protein like eggs, which are amazing, or things like chicken as well, like really good sources. And also just not stressing too much about your diet. If you're constantly anxious and stressing about what you're eating, that is not a healthy relationship with food. And if you're not happy as well as healthy, then in my eyes, you're not really healthy.
What's the
at
point?
all.
There's
There's no point.
Yeah.
If your food doesn't make you happy and tastes good, then there's literally no point, is there? Because we have to eat every day. We eat 3 times a day, every day. You're going to be doing it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It might as well bring joy to your life.
I couldn't have said it better. I brought a kindred spirit onto my channel and I'm so happy about it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And be sure to check out Pixie's channel because we have recorded fitness myths that we're busting. So go check those out. But yeah, like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Pixie.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Goodbye.